Greetings everyone, welcome back to Blade Bias. Mere seconds after the last video that I recorded and posted that you guys saw where I went through everything that I got at Blade Show. Now we're going to talk about the experience of Blade Show because it was just too much to fit into one specific single video. First of all, I want to shout out all of the people who came up to me, wanted to take pictures, wanted me to sign something, wanted me to try one of their ballad songs, wanted to try one of my ballad songs. It's always the most special part of Blade Show to get to talk to people, and I wish I could talk to each and every one of you far more than I'm able to, but Blade Show is just such a busy time that you're running around all the time, and it was a lot. If you saw me at all during Blade Show, you probably saw the periods where I was just sitting by myself, staring off into the void, which usually happens because Blade Show is an overloading experience. Even for someone who doesn't make YouTube videos, I think it's an overloading experience. So me being someone who people will come up to and like want to talk to or whatever, and I don't say that to be braggadocious or anything, I just say that to illustrate what happens. It's a bit overwhelming, and sometimes I just need to sit back, stare off into the void, but I really did truly enjoy talking to everyone. So thank you guys. I haven't received any messages from anyone who's like, oh, I was too scared to come up to you or I couldn't make it to you, which is really awesome. I met so many people who made it to their first Blade Show, and I hope each and every one of you had such an amazing time. And to everyone who's been to Blade Show before, I hope it was even better than the last. For me, it certainly was. The show was very, very overwhelming this year, mostly because of the crowd. I don't know if it was just me, but the ballad song section specifically felt very, very crowded this year. It felt like everywhere I was going, I was pushing through people, or I couldn't flip a live blade because I was just in too close proximity to everyone else. Zippy's booth especially, because Zippy was right next to LBY, kind of in a smaller alleyway than normal, and you had normal knife people walking through because on the other side of Zippy's booth were like actual folding knife makers, I think. I actually don't remember what was over there exactly, but there were a lot of times where I just wanted to try something, but I couldn't because it was a live blade and I couldn't flip it confidently where I was. But the makers had some incredible stuff. Squid had a bunch of new prototypes. There was a live blade Nautilus. There was the retail release of the live blade Mako. There was an Ultem Nautilus. There was the Bowie Nami. I'm probably forgetting something else. They had the Surf there. None of it really spoke to me all that much, to be completely honest with you. It wasn't like I tried anything and I was like, I need to buy this now. All of it was just good. I was whelmed by Squid's booth. The Bowie Nami probably being my favorite thing that I tried. The Ultem Nautilus I think flipped better than most Nautili that I've tried. But it was just, I think it was a little slippery, and someone had mentioned that they had bought one and it like scuffed up really easily or something like that. So yeah, I mean, Squid, like I said, not bad by any means, just not my style. So I was just kind of more whelmed than anything. And that, I mean, the most exciting thing at Squid's booth was this Squid trainer that I found. If you watched the last video, in their clearance bin, which I flipped almost non-stop. I had it in my pocket non-stop for the rest of the weekend. So that was, I mean, if you saw me at the show, I was probably flipping this thing. So it was pretty cool. I'm really enjoying this thing, but I also just want to mention, this will just be a quick rundown of some of the booths because I want to talk about experiences a little bit more. If you want a more detailed breakdown on the booths and like what they had and what we thought of some of the stuff they had, Brandon and I did a full double feature podcast that's like 3 hours long that will be coming out soon-ish. So check that out for any more in-depth details on any of these booths. But probably my two favorite booths were the Zippy booth, because he had his own booth this year. He wasn't sharing with Hom, and EPS. EPS, I think, is the star of the show. They had the Wraith, which everyone wanted. Everyone that I talked to wanted a Wraith. They sold out almost instantly, kind of like you would expect from like the Nami or Seraph back in the day at Blade Show. And they had that prototype with the wraparound G10, which was probably by far my favorite thing that I flipped at the show, period. And it sucks because he said he doesn't really know if that's going to exist in a proper way or be, available at retail at all. which again sucks because I really, really like that thing. But the G10 Wraith, I really liked that as well. I would have bought one if I was capable of getting it, but there aren't too many ballad songs that I want to get up at 4 in the morning and sit in a line outside of the convention center for you know 6 hours straight. I respect everyone who did that so much, but I just don't think that's for me, especially when the Wraith should be more readily available in the future, I think he said, with like online drops and stuff. So, yeah. It was really good though. EPS probably had my favorite ballad songs of the show with the Wraith and that wraparound G10 prototype. Zippy had my favorite stuff just in pure like goofy factor, but also like how the hell did you engineer this? The new cycloid is amazing, cross compatible with the Lucha handles that he made. Freaking awesome. The Parallax rocks. It was just a bit more expensive than I was willing to spend this Blade show, because I think the Parallax would have cost me more than every purchase I made combined, which I'm not complaining about. I think it's a fair price, especially for the specs of the Parallax and the novelty of getting it from Zippy, but just more than I had bargained for, unfortunately, which was, it was a front runner for my Blade Show pickup. Are there any other booths that I want to cover? LDY had an amazing aluminum Damascus Sirius, which flipped way better than the normal Sirius. I talked to a few people that said that. I really wanted to buy it. Unfortunately, I did not win the auction. So, yeah. And then they sold the demo unit to Ted, who was the second place winner in the auction. And I think he's been posting that on his story, which is super cool. I am, as sad as I am that I couldn't get one, I am happy that it sits in Ted's collection with a pretty freaking awesome set of one ballad songs. So yeah, shout out Ted. Congratulations, Ted. Are there any other booths? Machine Wise was of course there. They did amazing that show. They were more focused on pocket knives, or folding knives, which was why they were in the other room this year. But getting to go to their booth, they had on demo the TI Sasori, the Totori, and the Live Blade Prisma Pro, as well as the Seraph and the Opus. Love the Opus. The Opus V2 is definitely the best ballad song they've ever made, but it just kind of loses that personality that the Opus had, which is why I'm slightly disappointed by it. But ultimately, like, I think it deserves the name Opus because Opus was created because it was supposed to be their magnum opus, and I think the Opus V2 definitely is the best ballad song that Machine Wise can create. So, can't really complain there. It's good. I was far more interested in their other stuff, the Totori, the TI Sasori, which flipped a lot better than I thought it was going to based on descriptions that I've heard of it. And, of course, the Prisma Pro Live Blade that you see in my hands here, as well as the Sonora and the Mojave, which are beautiful. They also had a Mojave, sorry, not a Mojave, they had a Sonora with magnetic inlays that you could pop out and swap, which were super cool. What a good idea for the Sonora. The Sonora being the only folding knife that I've ever considered spending even more than $300 on. So that's pretty cool. But I think that's enough booths. Like I said, we'll get more in depth in the booths on the podcast, but I just kind of want to talk about the experience because there's so much other stuff that happened. There was the Acid Bowl at the end of day 2 on Saturday, which was an impromptu thing put on by Paul of Acid Works, creator of the Zyzix. It was like a King of the Hill style. Whoever could defeat the most people in a row would go on to the finals, and then the final people did like a flip off, and the winner won a sponsorship to Acid Works, I think was like the main prize, which also came with the Zyzix, which was really cool. It was just such a fun little event. There was the bite handle rave on the end of day 3 on Sunday, which was great, honestly. It started off a little weird because everyone was kind of focused in the back, in like the flipping area. But I think by the end of the show, people would really come around to it, and the party had really dialed up, kind of like the first year. I guess last year was also like that. But bite handle, always worth going to, especially even if you think it's stupid, which I know some people do. it's a free little show where you get to continue hanging out with people from Blade Show. Can you really complain with flipping in an environment where you get to listen to live music? Because I can't. I really can't, even if you're not into all of like the party aspects, which I'm generally not a rave person, but I love Bite Handle every year. Um, the show itself, very overwhelming, as usual. A lot of people to talk to, a lot of people that I wish I could have talked more with, a lot of people that I met and am very happy that I did. It was just cool. It was very, very, very cool. I enjoyed it so much as usual. And Blade Show somehow always manages to live up, at least live up to the year before, if not exceed. And while there were a few people that I truly missed this year who weren't able to make it, people like Den Den, Ty, of course, couldn't make it, which really sucked because this is kind of like our thing that we do every year. But I'm not blaming him at all. He had stuff going on, which I totally understand. But there were just people that didn't make it that before the show I was like, is this really going to live up to last year? And it totally did. I had the absolute pleasure of staying with Brandon all weekend. He allowed me to crash on his couch, which was sick. Getting to hang out with him more was awesome. His wonderful girlfriend, they were both so very kind and welcoming, and they did so much for me. We went on a kayak trip at the end. It was so freaking sick. It was me, Brandon, on the job flips, girlfriend, Will's partner Prism, and then me. Possibly the greatest thing I've ever done at Blade Show, which is interesting because it was nothing to do with Blade Show, but totally worth staying that extra day. That kayak trip was, it was so awesome. We'll talk more about that on the podcast as well. But yeah, Blade Show continues to be an event that not only restores kind of my faith in this community, not to say I don't have faith in this community, but we just have so much BS that happens online during the year where people are arguing or getting into this bullshit with each other. And then you think, oh, Blade Show is going to be a nightmare. But then everyone shows up at Blade Show and everyone is so welcoming and friendly, and it's very brotherly and sportsmanlike. Like even just the bond between all the people who do Bally Comp is so good to see. The dude who won got mobbed by all his friends and all the other flippers, and they all celebrated. And it was just really awesome to see. The community came together in some really awesome ways during the weekend that really kind of makes you sit back and realize how good we actually do have it in this hobby, considering there's a lot of other hobbies where everyone just hates each other. I'm looking at you, audiophiles. But yeah, it was so nice. It's one of those events that makes you not only excited to continue your journey in ballad songs, gave me the motivation to create that edit that I did, gave me the motivation to create, hopefully, a little more than I have been creating lately. But also just reminds you how good, like, the hobby can actually be when people aren't yelling at each other on Reddit or whatever usually happens. And also reminds you that it's just not worth getting dragged down in all of that because there's so many good people in the hobby. So huge shout out to everyone who went to Blade Show. I hope you guys had a wonderful time. I'm probably forgetting stuff, but as I keep saying, podcast in a few days. It's really long and we go into depth. So if there's anything else you want to know, check that video out when it comes out. Shout out to every single maker, fellow content creator. I met Benjamin Flips, which was one of the highlight people for me because he's just a chill dude and really nice to talk to. Yeah, so many content creators, makers, even just, flippers that show up to Blade Show that were awesome to talk to. It was great to try people's collections. It's always a highlight of my Blade Show experience to bring my case and let people try the ballad songs that they've been watching on YouTube for so long. Unfortunately, the case really didn't live to tell the tale. Ignore this up here. This is just me shoving everything in there for the edit that I made because all of my important ballad songs are in here, but not even all of my important ballad songs. A lot of my important ballad songs are over here, but this is kind of what it looks like after the flight. I think it was the flight that mostly did this, but this is like a piece of foam underneath that it kind of bunches up. So as people are pulling it out, it's bunching up and pushing up, which is pushing everything forward. There's foam falling out of this thing. If you're going to buy this case, the Apache 3800, it might be worth it to get some custom foam inserts, especially if you're going to be at Blade Show with people pulling things in and out all the time. But yeah, it's always honestly one of my favorite things when someone comes up and says, "Oh, do you have this Balisong?" And it's like the Impusa or the Slift T or something that they've seen on this channel repeatedly that I've been talking a lot about, and they finally get a chance to like try it. Because I remember when I was like that, going through Will's collection, and that experience was so special to me, so I'm happy I can hopefully provide that to some other people. But yeah, to every single person that I met, thank you. I wish we could have talked more. I'm sorry if I wasn't high enough energy, but I really did have a great time. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Huge backlog to get through. We'll start kind of knocking out some of these Balisongs that I got at Blade Show. And I will see you guys all in the next one. Later.